It's about the mega projects, Penang Transport Master Plan and Penang South Reclamation. So Penang South Reclamation was originally part of the Penang Transport Master Plan because it was proposed to pay for the Penang Transport Master Plan. And I'm just going to talk about the characteristics of the mega project. Why is it a mega project? To what purpose? To what purpose is it conceived this way? So I think from Professor Terence Gomez's talk just now, we can see that these are basically different warlords are building up their war chest, right? And this is one of the war chests. Okay. Okay. Next. That's the part. How do I forward it? This one. Okay. This one. Okay. So right now there are two reclamations that are taking place. One is the Sri Tanjung Pinang, which is in the north, and it's already, together with Gurney Wharf, is 1,131 acres, and they are proposing another 4,500 acres in the south. So this is called the Penang South Reclamation. So that's the north, this is the south. The Nelayan actually have been objecting to the reclamation since 2015. So long before they partnered with civil society. The largest protest they had is 1,500 Nelayan in 2015 to object to the EIA, to object to the Penang South Reclamation. EIA was shown in 2017 and it was actually rejected, partly because of their protest. Then in January 2017, they had a kind of last-ditch protest to try and stop the Sri Tanjung Pinang. So Sri Tanjung Pinang is earlier, it's now ongoing and almost completed phase 1. So they went out to sea in 450 boats, but that didn't stop the project. So under the earlier structure plan, this Penang South Reclamation was not there yet. This one, huh? So now they have changed the structure plan to allow all sorts of things. Hill development, more than 250. We haven't seen it, but we suspect that they're going to take out all the hill development restrictions from the previous structure plan. And then, as you can see, there are so many tambak, all this tambak, okay? Pesta tambak. This is in the Penang structure plan, which was presented on the 18th of April. To the National Physical Planning Council. Penang Forum was actually granted an opportunity to present our objections, and we wanted to do that first in the morning session, but unfortunately they kind of switched the timetable on us, and by the time we presented at the end, before, it's chaired by the Prime Minister, so before he left, we were the last presentation, and they had kind of they had already approved the structure plan. But they then held on to the Penang South Reclamation with 18 nasihat. Okay. So, Penang Tolak Tambak actually started when the EIA was displayed in May, during the month of Ramadan. And I started this petition, and so it has gone around, and then there's another petition, Save Malaysia's Turtles, which talks about Penang and Perak, Segari as well. And then we launched our campaign with many of your NGOs actually endorsed our petition. So with 45 NGO endorsements, we launched this campaign against the reclamation. And then it was actually around that time that we joined forces with the Nelayan. So it's actually very recent, it's the last few months only. So we joined forces with them and then organized this march to Parliament and managed to meet the Minister of Agriculture, who after this lobbying in Parliament then became a bit more receptive. And anyway, we know that from the MPFN, which is the National Physical Planning Council, that there has been a lot of misrepresentation. So for example, they say only 805 fishermen are going to be affected. But the Minister of Agriculture then admitted actually 5,000. 5,000 fishermen have a right to fish in that sea. So 2 weeks ago we organized this forum reclamation a ticking time bomb, and we explain why it's a ticking time bomb. And this is the November the 4th Hari Solidarity Nelayan, where we are, the Pengurusi has asked all the fishermen not to go to sea, but also the trawlers, also the fish farmers. So we are trying to get their cooperation. Okay, so how do they shape the narrative? First of all, they say, well, we need to solve this Penang transport problem. So they have created this very elaborate Penang Transport Master Plan, which has a lot of components, and among the components, there are many red herrings, because some of these components, they actually have no intention of implementing. They have no, it's like they've said, oh, maybe in 20 years' time, 30 years, after we do this and that. So actually, we spent our time, we wasted so much time discussing some of those components, but in the end, we know that they're just red herrings. And the rest is actually the white elephant. White elephant is where all this kind of surplus benefit is going to be generated. So this is a video. Can you just start the video? I don't know. Okay, maybe we just show the first part. Okay. And then, okay. Quick introduction.
Hi, this is Crash Course to Penang Transport Master Plan, PTMP. Let's start. Many people think that this PTMP is an idea by our state government. No! It was an idea proposed by the Penang Civil Society in 2009 to the state government, and they said, okay, no problem, we will do it. In response to that request, the Penang state government then engaged HealthCo, a transport consultancy, to produce a blueprint for Penang Transport Master Plan. But a month before the HealthCo was appointed on, the Penang state government signed an MOU with the Beijing Urban Construction Group. This MOU states that the construction company from China will build 3 highways and 1 undersea tunnel, which will cost RM 6.3 billion. But wait, don't you think we should wait for the HealthCo to produce the blueprint first? They are the expert after all. So after about 2 years of detailed study with the participation of various parties, the HealthCo blueprint was completed and was adopted as the state's transport master plan. It's not free, Our state government paid HealthCo RM 3.2 million for this. After that, the state government advertised for a project delivery partner, UNDP, to manage this transport master plan based on the HealthCo's blueprint. 6 proposals received, and SRS consortium won the bid, but with a different proposal which came out of nowhere. Who is this SRS, you may ask? It consists of 3 companies: Gamuda Infrastructure Property Company, Ideal, a Penang developer, Low Poyan Holdings, Penang Property Company. Ever since the appointment, the state government had went around Penang and talked to people about SRS proposal to the public. But what happened to the original HealthCo blueprint? HealthCo blueprint shows a better integrated public transport system, while SRS introduced a very complicated one. It has a clear strategy to reduce our traffic problem by improving connectivity, while SRS proposed more highways in our state. A comprehensive transport master plan to be seen in HealthCo blueprint, but SRS1 is in big chunks and disconnected. We need to stick to the idea of moving people, not cars. It seems like SRS1 to propose the opposite.
So that video is by Andrew Han. If you want to simplify a very complex subject, just get him to do it. Okay, so I'm going to talk about basically the captured state. I think Asham was talking about that. Characteristics of the state captured mega project, and then collateral damage. So we start with the story of 3 highways and a tunnel. It actually started from Penang Outer Ring Road. At that time, the concessionaire was Penang Metro Works, which became Peninsula Metro Works. So in 1996, this ring road was proposed at 34 million per kilometer, and in 2002 it rose up to 60 million per kilometer. So UMNO is so corrupt, so they raised it by 300 million. 300 million, not billion. Nowadays they're talking about billions. Okay. In 2002, DAP at that time and YB Chow Kon Yao said the Penang Outer Ring Road is turning into a 5 billion political patronage project, and its effectiveness in resolving Penang's traffic problem is still doubtful. At the time, they were talking about sustainable transport. Power is not going to solve the problem. And interestingly enough, this Peninsula Metro Works was going to get the Gurney Drive reclamation concession. Kit Siang's blog, which has so much information, he says it's a matter of great concern that the Penang state government seems to have reduced itself into an agent or servant of Peninsula Metro Works by preparing to surrender so much land even before the signing of the concession. So he's the one that talks about the captured state, right? He introduced the subject. Quoting Penang ratepayers president, he said, "The people want to know whether the proposals are sound. Have the ramifications been fully studied? Are the cost benefits convincing? Have comparative evaluations been made?" This is exactly what we want to know about the PTMP. So, captured state, I think you all know what it means. Systemic corruption. So the Zenith Consortium, 3 highways and a tunnel. Some characteristics of the public procurement: instead of open tender, there's a request for proposal. Not only that, when Penang Forum wrote about the difference between open tender and request for proposal, they have cyber troopers who write and try to confuse people. No, actually it's the same. Actually it's open tender. So it's so active, every time we write something, Dr. Lim Mahui writes something, then these cyber troopers will write something just to confuse people. Then you have all these comments on Malaysia Kini, right, at the bottom of the page. So the mode of payment is land swap. Elsewhere they say, oh, land swap is very bad, but here land swap is okay because Penang exceptionalism. Okay, and payment of highway feasibly schedule ahead of schedule, it actually came under the Penang Public Accounts Committee. It was studied, and there's a huge report. And the actual project until now has not started. So you're talking about, I think 2013, right? Until now, they have already got paid in terms of 3.7 acres. The high rises are going up because they take the land, mortgage it into the bank, then build this high rise, and nothing, not even, they have not started on the highways. And actually, we don't want them to start on the highways. So you see this Gurney reclamation, which was actually supposed to be given to Peninsula Metro Works, very corrupt, UMNO, whoever. Okay, now it's become Gurney Wharf. And then this side of the Penang Outer Ring Road has become Pan Island Link. But Pan Island Link is just a bit longer. And then another alignment is become Zenith Package 3. So it's packaged as 3 different things. People, actually, you can ask the ordinary Penang people, they wouldn't know that actually these 3 things were actually Penang Outer Ring Road. Because people, they don't keep track of it, they forget, right? The land swap is here, 3.7 acres, and there's going to be another 110 acres which is going to be handed over for building the 3 highways and a tunnel. So it's still kind of waiting, pending, and we hope that somebody in this room can put a stop to it. This is the Sri Tanjung Pinang reclamation, 760 acres, is left over from the 1,000 acres. The Sri Tanjung Pinang 1 already becomes Straits Key, and this one is the leftover of the 1,000 acres. So this was originally mooted by Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim when he was UMNO chairman. That's only 5 minutes, okay. Then, so you have all these, the graft case that suddenly turned into money laundering case, don't know how it happened. And then, Chow Kon Yao, our chief minister then announces that MACC has cleared the undersea tunnel. Why is he announcing it? And why is he announcing it on April the 17th, which is 1 day before he's going to present the Penang structure plan to the MPFN? So this is actually about the art of misdirection, because if they had been standing, they give you a pretty picture of Gurney Wharf, but if the picture was taken the other way, you would see all the bangkai gajah here, right? Okay, so the characteristics of a state-captured mega project, they are large, unique projects where public actors play a key role. They're likely to be affected by corruption, and corruption versus both cost and time performance and benefits delivered. So they tend to be excess capacity infrastructure. And why is it big? Because it's easy to hide. Unique because it makes things difficult to compare. Number of contracts, project complexity, and Parkinson's law of triviality. Because nobody knows about this mega project, they don't want to talk about it. But if you ask them how to build a bicycle shed, they will spend a lot of time talking about it because everybody is an expert. So there's also a lot of discretion that can be used in transport infrastructure. If the rail line goes here instead of there, the land prices here all go up. So if you don't have good transport studies to back up your justification, why it should be here and not there, that itself is a form of corruption. Okay, and then we have a very secretive public service because they're used to years and years of OSA. So in order to have a state capture, you must have captive mines. So this is how the thing started. They had 20 volumes, which we asked to be put on display, and when it was put on display, it was very restricted. You cannot bring in your handphone even. And this kind of very partial, fragmented information so that nobody actually knows what this mega project is, what costing it is, and all that. And people who had complained and objected were then just brushed aside and isolated. So it's like pecah dan perintah. Okay, so of course these people then got together and tried to, okay. So then the other part is like overreach because there are false population projections. We've shown that it's false. They say there's going to be another 500,000 people from somewhere. So where are they going to come from? They're going to come from the 3 islands which have not yet been built. So the moment they're built, you're going to have a population density, very, very high population density. And remember that Penang is a very small state with a very small capacity. The state revenue is only 1 billion, and yet you want to handle such a big project. The circumference is only 72 kilometers, but they want to build 70 kilometers of roads, mostly elevated. So at first they said it's because of PTMP, now they say it's because actually they just need it for economic growth. And then the reclamation costings, we couldn't quite find out what are the actual costings, and it keeps changing until now it's 11 billion. Okay, so the phase 1 will consist of the 3 islands, 1 LRT, 1 highway. And then how they're going to fund it, at first they said 1 billion bridging loan. They said that, you don't need any money. So the state government said, we accepted this because it has a means of financing it, we don't have to come out with any money. And then after that, they said, actually we have to find the seed loan of 1 billion. And then after that, they tried to pull this Gamuda highway thing to make Gamuda cash rich to fund the PTMP, to fund the Penang South Reclamation. And then they used something called the Project Delivery Partner, where the PDP is getting 6% of the fees, so the higher the project costs, the higher the fees. And the PTMP project was inflated from 27 billion to 46 billion because you have to absorb all those things. And then this news came out in Borneo Post, but it's not in the mainland, in the Peninsula Post, because PDP is bad for, bad for Borneo, but it's good for Penang. Okay, so these are the population projections. Okay, I just asked for a bit more time because my slide show didn't come on, until 5 minutes later. Okay, and then this is, the forest city. So you're not going to get this kind of population unless you sell a lot of the property to foreigners. And you're not going to sell a lot of property to foreigners unless you're also selling, PR or MyCard. Okay. And Pan Island Link is going to be the most expensive transport infrastructure in Malaysia. Thanks to YPUOB, we have actually this chart, which shows that the KIDEX, which we objected to, was going to be 161 million per kilometer, And Pan Island Link is going to be 492 million per kilometre. Okay. Economic benefits of Penang LRT artificially inflated. So if we don't get this kind of ridership, we're going to end up with 100 million annual deficit. Okay, we have a forum on LRT if you're interested in Penang on the 5th of October. So this Roger Teo, says that comes to the conclusion that actually the original idea of increasing public transport modal share is not going to happen if you don't change the paradigm. And given the large sums involved, it is likely that future government will no longer have the financial flexibility to turn things around. And once you start work, there's no turning back. Okay. So we have asked for a review and a cost-benefit, cost-benefit study. And then the other thing they do is they reduce the scope and play down the impacts. So for example, only 5 kilometer impact zone, and then now there's a problem of coastal pollution. And they have actually totally neglected to talk about the Perak fishermen who are going to be affected, 9,000 Perak fishermen. They're going to be affected by sand mining, and again, this sand mining thing in Gamuda also has links back to royalty, I suppose. And many sins of omission, they didn't mention that Sungai Udang, which is right here, is actually the most important aquaculture center in the country in terms of wholesale value. They are supplying to Singapore and Hong Kong as well. And this whole area is like a golden triangle for aquaculture and fisheries. And these are from the fisheries department. So the fish farmers are actually very nervous, and they have also written to DOE, but this is not widely known. And climate change, okay, and regulatory capture. Okay, I'll go through quickly. So, under the terms and conditions, if SRS does not get all the approvals, the state can walk away without compensation. Okay, so this is an example of Pan Island Link, where we mounted a lot of objection, 2,000 letters. And YBUOB, what does she say? Nobody had asked any question about corruption, but she said, oh, nobody in this room is going to get anything in their pocket, right? I don't know why she said that. And then we had actually asked for an update. They said nothing happening, and then on 10th of April, suddenly approved. And again, it's because before the presentation to MPFN. And then the approval was, despite all these preliminary engineering drawings showing that it would be contravention of JKR guidelines. So then when I asked the question, then instead of scolding SRS, why did you submit this proposal with flawed engineering plans? He said, oh, then he started to explain, because they are not the actual design. So if they are not the actual design, how can DOE approve the EIA? So then the SIA has been done without anyone knowing about it. The same thing when they got the nod to develop the islands. I heard from a friend whose friend works in Gamuda, the project is on. Okay, a few days after the DOE approved it. But then our CM doesn't seem to know about it. So in fact, he actually denied, still waiting. And then a few hours later on July the 5th, that he said it's on. So actually, he's the last to know. Okay, then process kelulusan EIA. It showed that 2 days after they received this report, it was approved. 2 days. And it was approved by the Ketua Pengarah on his last day of work. Okay, I'll end here. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Salma. So we unfortunately have to cut short the Q&A session, but no worries, as Teresa explained early on, whatever questions that you have during Salma's session, you can still write on the paper, and then we can then revisit during the sessions. But I think we have 5 minutes for just one question. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Or should I just continue for 5 minutes?